I am Allison, a librarian with the Spokane County Library District. I am going to show you how to do some simple tie-dye and simple reverse tie-dye. If you signed up for our library program on how to tie-dye, you will have access to one of our supply bags. And in those bags, the supplies provided will be 3 colors of tie-dye, 2 white masks, 2 black masks, rubber bands, some plastic sandwich bags, some disposable gloves, and a white bag. Now, you will need to provide some supplies yourself to do this. First off, you will need a rinsing station, such as a sink, a bathtub, or if you're outside, a hose. You will also need a pouring device, such as a pitcher or a measuring cup. You will need a detergent or a dish soap to wash your projects after it's dyed. You will also need a large craft tray or bowl or cookie sheet, something that you have that you can work over to catch the dye and to hold your products once you have them soaked in dye. And another thing you will need is a workspace that won't get damaged by either the colored dye or the bleach we're using today. I recommend using plastic tablecloths or garbage bags to spread over your area to kind of contain the mess, because it is pretty messy. I recommend that you actually do it outside if you can. So first off, cover your workspace with plastic. Have your tray and your bowl ready. Next, you want to prepare your fabric. We're gonna do regular tie-dye first. So we're gonna start with the white masks. So for regular tie-dye, you do want to dampen your project before you start. So I'm gonna use this water here to dampen it. Now you don't want your product, your fabric, to be soaking wet. So once you get it wet, you want to make sure that you wring it and squeeze it so it's just damp, not dripping, okay? So that's important. Okay, so you have your damp mask. It's not dripping. It's just nice and damp and wet. So I recommend, before you even mix your dye, to fold your products into the patterns that you want, because once you get the dye mixed, it's pretty messy, and there's always a chance of contaminating your nice white projects with colors you don't want. So first off, we're gonna try to make some patterns and tie these up before we get started with our dye. So the first pattern I'm going to show you today is the bullseye. And I can show you what the final product looks like. This is one I did earlier. This is the Bullseye Pattern. You can choose whatever colors you'd like. You can use all the colors you have or just 1 or 2 of the colors. So to make this pattern, you're going to take your mask, and wherever you want the center of your bullseye to be, you're going to take a pinch of fabric. So I want it right in the center. So I'm going to pinch it right in the center of the mask, and then you're going to want to pull the rest of the fabric down and away from that pinch. Okay? So then you're going to place and bind however big you want your center circle of color to be. You can do just the very tip, or if you want the center circle to be a little bigger, you can go down a little farther. So this is about where I want it. And I'm going to bind that with a rubber band. Now you want to make sure your rubber bands are secured pretty tightly, as tight as you're comfortable with. So I have that little nib up there. So if I want more colors in my bullseye, like this one, I used 3 colors. I used purple, red, and blue. So every time the color changes, I used a rubber band. So to do another color ring, I'm going to place my rubber band here. Make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so that'll give me 1, 2 colors. And if I want to do more, if I want to do a third color and bring the color all the way back to the sides of the mask, I can do another band of rubber band here. Okay, so that is ready for our ink in a little bit. So that one is set. So that was our bullseye pattern. The next one I'm going to do is similar. It's called the sunburst pattern or polka dots. It looks a lot like polka dots to me. So again, we're going to dampen our mask, squeeze and wring it out, make sure there's no water dripping off of it, so it's just damp. Gives you strong hands. Okay, so we've got our mask. Let me show you what the starburst or polka dot pattern looks like. So here's one I did earlier. You can see the kind of the polka dots, the different color dots that I have. So that's the sunburst or polka dot pattern. To do this pattern, what you do is you take your damp mask and wherever you want a polka dot or a sunburst, you do a pinch, just like we did with our bullseye. So I want one up in this little corner here. And remember, the more fabric you pinch, the lower your rubber band is, the bigger your polka dot it will be. So I want my polka dot to be about right there. Okay, and there we go. I've got my little nib of fabric right there. So I want more than just one polka dot. So I'm going to take another little pinch, let's say down here, and I'm going to bind off that little pinch of fabric with the rubber band. Okay, so I've got 2 polka dots on my mask. I'm going to do another one up here. And you can make these different sizes depending on how much fabric you pinch off and secure with the rubber band. The smaller you go, the harder it is to get the rubber band around and to stay. I did this one pretty small, so you can see it's a little tougher to make sure you still have that little piece of fabric poking out. Okay, so that is the polka dot or sunburst pattern. So this one's ready for our die, so I'm going to set it aside here. And I'm going to prepare our black masks, which is what we would use for reverse tie-dye. So for these, you would use bleach, and you leave these dry. You don't want to dampen these before you do your folds or your patterns, okay? So these, I'm going to show you how to do. This one, I'll show you how to do an accordion. We're going to keep it dry. So with an accordion, you're going to take your mask, and you can do this either from the end or from the bottom or the top. Just you have to pick a side to start from. So the accordion, you flip it over and then under. So it looks like an accordion, like that. And then under, and then under. So it looks like that, okay? So that's the accordion fold. And the tricky part of the accordion fold is to keep it in the folds and get the rubber bands around it. Now you can take and do rubber bands down the mask, like here, here, and here, and do different colors in between. You can take the accordion fold a little farther if you wanted to and make more of a little box. Oh, I lost my fold. Let me do that quickly again. Do our accordion fold over and under. So if you want more than just stripes, a type of stripe that I can show you in just a moment, or you can do more of a box. So you do the same thing lengthwise. So you go fold over and then under. So you have something like this. And then you would secure it with a rubber band or two to make sure it held that fold. This gives it more of a kind of a boxy look instead of a striped look. Let me show you what I had done earlier. So this fold produces something like this with bleach. You get a stripe, but you also get the lines across, so it's more of a box look. So it's pretty cool. If you just stuck with just the straight accordion fold and did the rubber bands across it across it when it was long, you would get something more like this, more of a stripe look. So that one's ready for later. Another one that produces some pretty cool designs is just a crumple. You just crumple it up in as many interesting crumples and folds as you can and just kind of make a crumple up like you would a piece of paper in your fist. And then the hard part is getting rubber bands around it. But this creates some fun, really fun patterns sometimes, because you just never know what's going to come out of it. I'm going to put one more rubber band around this. Okay, so that one's kind of a crumple. I'll show you one I did earlier that was a crumple. It was this one. So this one was just a crumple. I did 3 different colors on it. It was kind of a random pattern, always different. So that one's kind of fun. And a classic one, which I'll show you with our bag, since it's a little bigger, is the swirl. It's kind of a very classic tie-dye pattern that you see a lot of places. So this one's white. So this is going to be the bag is white, so it'll be a regular tie-dye. So I'm going to make it damp, and then I still have water in the pan. And then wring it out, make sure it's not dripping any water anymore, because we don't want a bunch of water on there, we just want it just damp. So the swirl is when you do another pinch. So wherever you want the center of your swirl to start, the very center, you want to take that pinch of fabric, just like with our bullseye and just like with our polka dots. So I want it right in the middle. So I'm going to pinch that fabric and hold it. And then you're going to take the rest of the fabric and twist it around your fingers, holding that pinch of fabric in the middle or wherever you have decided to take it. And try to make a nice little disc of fabric with that tight swirl in the middle. This is one of the hardest ones to do, to get the fabric right and to get it set. So like that. And once you have it pretty much wrapped all around your fingers, this one's tricky. Okay, try to hold it with your hand and get rubber bands around it before it unravels on you. See if I can get this around and show you some of the folds in there. So you can kind of see the swirl in there. It kind of looks like a flower or a swirl. So that will give you that classic swirl, kind of like my t-shirt where it's hard to see with the logo, but it starts in the middle and swirls out in different colors. So this one you want to secure with a couple rubber bands. I recommend more than just 2, at least 3, maybe 4. So that one I think is pretty good to go. Okay, so we've got those set. Let me show you a swirl that I tried that wasn't very successful, but you can kind of see the swirl started. This one, since it was such a small area, like the mask, it's really hard to get the swirl right. But there's that one. And I believe I tried to do a swirl with the bleach too. You can kind of see the swirl a little bit here with the black radiating out. Now I did this with bleach, but after I used the bleach, I also added a little bit of color. You can see my little bits of purple in there that I added afterward, which is fun. This is another one I did with the reverse tie-dye with the bleach. And this one was supposed to be a sunburst pattern or polka dots. You can see the dots there that I started, but you can see I got bleach on the other parts of the mask as well. So you don't see the polka dots as well. But it still came out with a fun pattern. And this one I added the color red dye to. So that one's a fun one. This one is also one where I did the accordion pattern. This one and I took it one step farther and I did the boxes. And this one shows the pattern a little better because it's a bigger surface area. But this one came out really well with the accordion fold for the die. Okay, so I think we're ready to get our die started because we have all our folds done. So we're gonna get our dye mixed. So you're gonna have 3 colors in your bag if you have the library supply bag. Now to mix your dye, all you need is water. They have a line on the back of the die where it shows you where to fill the water up to. Now, once you get the dye out, it's really messy, so make sure you do it over a pan or do it outside. Wear old clothes or an apron. The dye gets everywhere. You can see old dye on my fingers too. So make sure you wear gloves. So I'm gonna put these on. Make sure I don't get more dye on my fingers. So I am going to open this up. Make sure it's over one of your bowls or pans. And I'm going to fill it up with water till that solid black line, the fill line. There we go. Now they tell you to shake well. I caution you on shaking it really hard or vigorously. Shake it very gently. These containers don't seal very well and some of them will get dye everywhere. So I'm just gonna do a little gentle shake, low in the pan, away from me. Okay, is that one set? I'm gonna fill up and get the other dyes ready. I've got blue, pink, and purple today. Again, I'm gonna fill it up to that solid black line at the top of the bottle. You pretty much just fill your bottle. And again, very gently, very gently. These bottles are actually doing pretty good. I had some other bottles that leaked around the top vigorously, meaning they leaked a lot. So be careful with your bottles. But this will give you a lot of dye, so you can practice with your masks in your bag. This will be plenty of dye to do other projects too, if you have t-shirts or towels or anything else you wanted to try tie-dye with. You'll have some left over after you do your masks and bag. Okay, gently shake. Okay, got our colors ready. So now I'm going to take our Bullseye Pattern, remember this one? And I'm going to do colors between the rubber bands. So wherever the rubber bands are, you're going to have the white spaces, like this one, like they had a rubber band right there, separating the colors. Now you don't have to do different colors if you don't want to. You can do the same color. you'll just have lighter areas where the rubber band is. But today I am going to do some different colors to show you. I'm going to take the caps off of these. You can see it's already starting to get messy. Okay, so you can see the dye just gets everywhere. So I think I'm going to put purple on the very top or very center of my bullseye, because remember that's going to be the center of your bullseye. Now remember, you don't want to soak it too much with dye. You just want to put enough on there to cover it. If you soak it too much, you lose all the pattern and it's just a wash of colors. Oh, see, I'm already getting other colors. So I'm going to do pink for the next ring of my bullseye. Just cover it. Okay. And then I'm going to do blue for my next one, the very outer ring of my bullseye. Spread that on there. Make sure I cover it, but don't soak it too much, just enough. Okay. And then you can add more color to the outside if you want. You could do another color like purple. I think I'm just going to leave it white with my little speckles of random color from my gloves. I think that might be a cool look. So I'm going to let this set aside. What you want to do if you're happy with your colors, you can take the rubber bands off, which I'll do with this one. Careful of the splatter. I almost recommend taking scissors and cutting it off, because the ink tends to splatter with the snap of the rubber band as you're trying to get it off. So if I leave the rubber bands on, you're going to see a better pattern. But just for the sake of the demonstration, I'm going to take it off so you can see it. I recommend leaving the rubber bands on, and ideally you want to put it in one of our plastic sandwich bags and leave it and let it sit for 6 to 8 hours. So there is our pattern of bullseye. See, I could have even used a little bit more ink or dye on there, huh? So you can experiment. See, if you undo it and you're not happy with it, you think, I want more color on there, you can always wrap it back up and put your rubber bands back on and add some more color. But once it's sat for around 6 hours in your plastic sandwich bag, then what you want to do is you want to take it out and you want to rinse this with cold water until the color runs clear. So you're not seeing any of the colors wash away anymore from this, because all the excess color will come out once you rinse it. Okay, and once the color runs clear, then you want to take a little dish soap or detergent and wash it, and you'll see more color come out. And you want to rinse it and wring it until there is no more color coming out. And then you let it dry and you have your mask. So this was our bullseye. I'm going to set it over here. We'll put it in a plastic sandwich bag and let the color set up. So the longer you let it sit in the plastic bag, which keeps it damp, the longer you let it sit before you rinse it or wash it, the brighter the colors will be. If you want more of a pastel look or a lighter color, then wash it sooner. So that one's set. Okay, so let's do our polka dot or sunburst. So with this one, to get the polka dots or sunbursts, you want to try your best, I'm not the best at this, but try your best just to get color on the little, oops, see, leaky bottle, on the tips of the little pinches of fabric that you raised. You can do different colors if you want, but I think I want all my polka dots to be pink. This one's a little tricky. Okay, so my pink polka dots, and then I think I want to have purple on the rest of my mask. So you can add purple however much or wherever you want. So there's my purple and pink polka dots or sunburst mask. Okay, and normally you would put this right into the plastic sandwich bag and let it sit so the colors are nice and vibrant, at least 6 hours if you want it really bright. But for today, just so you can see the pattern, I'm going to take the rubber bands off. So you can see what it looks like. Okay, we did pretty good with that one. This one got a little away from me. Too much ink, too much dye, but the other two polka dots look pretty good. So there is our sunburst or polka dot pattern for tie-dye. I'm going to put this in a plastic bag and let it set up. Okay. Next we have our bag, which we did the spiral, remember? So with this one, I am going to use if I can get this rubber band. So I've got it sectioned with, I have one rubber band around the outside, but I have 2 rubber bands crossing it. You can add more rubber bands if you wanted to do more color, to divide the color on the swirl, but I'm just going to leave it as 4 sections of color. So I'm going to do blue on one section, remember, don't add too much color at first because you can always add more, and don't forget to get the other side. On the masks, it's not as important to make sure you have it on both sides because it's such a small piece of fabric, it just soaks right through. But the bags have a bit more fabric to them, so you want to make sure you get both sides. And I'm going to do a purple section and get the other side. Okay. And of course a pink section. And remember, you always want to think about the colors that you're putting next to each other because they will always blend just a little bit. So you want to be aware of which colors you're putting together because it could make another color like brown. And if you don't want a brown line in between your colors, then you have to be aware of that. So let's see, I think I'll do another purple section. And we'll get that on there. Okay. So there's our swirl. You can see I'm getting a lot of ink in the pan. That's why we have our pan there. So again, ideally you would pop this right into a plastic bag and let it sit for 6 hours. But we're going to show you the pattern. We're going to see how it came out. It's always a surprise when you take off the rubber bands. You never know what it's going to look like. And I had the one around the outside to keep the swirl in place. Okay, let's see if we got a good swirl. I've never been very lucky with the swirls, but we'll see how it comes out. Oh, it came out pretty good. You can see the swirl of blue there. If I can get it up, hold it up where we can see it. Starts in the middle and swirls all the way up. You can see the purple swirl and the pink swirl. That one came out really well. So that is the swirl pattern. I think it's the trickiest one, or at least it's the trickiest one for me. So this was a great result. There we go. That one came out well. We'll put it in a plastic bag. Let the color set up and really pretty much stain the fabric. Make sure it's nice and stained. So we still have our black masks. Now I didn't want to use bleach in the library today. So you at home have to have parental supervision to use bleach because bleach is a toxic substance, okay? So make sure your parents are with you when you're using the bleach. If you choose to do the reverse tie-dye, it's something you don't have to do. You have plenty of stuff to do with regular tie-dye if you want to avoid the bleach. It's totally understandable. But if you choose to do the reverse tie-dye, make sure you're in a very well ventilated area and you're in a place that's not going to get damaged by using bleach, because you're going to be pouring bleach over your mask that is bundled up. So you want to make sure you have something to catch it, just like with the color dye. But you want to make sure you definitely wearing your gloves because bleach is a skin irritant, and a very well ventilated area with guardian supervision. So just for our purposes today, I'm going to pretend that the water is bleach. And what you want to do with the bleach is you pour it over, but you want to aim for your rubber bands because the rubber bands are pressing and stressing the fabric. So that's going to be the place where the bleach is going to do the most coloring when you pour it over your project. So you would pour it over like this. Make sure you get all around it. Pour it over where you have your rubber bands. And then you're going to let it sit for about 10 to 20 seconds. And you want to make sure that you're close to your rinsing station because the longer you let the bleach sit on your mask, the lighter it will get. So say for example, these. You want to be very close to your rinsing station because I let these set for about 15 seconds. So you can let it sit on your mask longer and it'll get lighter and lighter. I liked the orange kind of color that came up, but you can see where it's almost getting white. The longer you leave it, the lighter it will be. Now, if you're adding color after you rinse out the bleach, then you want it kind of light because the color will show up better if you leave the bleach on a little longer. So once you've let this sit on your mask, the bleach, you will see the color change with your eyes. Once you see it and it's getting to be a color where you're like, I like it there, then take it to your rinsing station and rinse it off. Take off the rubber bands and totally rinse it out. And as you're rinsing it out, you'll see this orangey color come up and rinse out down the drain. You want to keep rinsing until you don't see that color anymore and the water runs clear as you're rinsing and reining it. Once you have clear water, then you want to use a dish soap or a fabric detergent to wash your mask, and you'll see more orange color come out of the mask. So you want to suds it and rinse it and wash it until that color stops coming out of the mask. You want to doubly make sure that you rinse out and wash out all that bleach, because if you leave any bleach in the fabric, it'll just continue to bleach the fabric, making white spots. So you won't have that fun pattern anymore. It'll keep changing. So you just want to make sure you stop that bleach from making any more progress and rinse and wash it out. And then you'll have your mask. I have one. So this one, I did not add any color to. This is just what it looks like from using the bleach. Now you can leave your mask like this if you like this, because this can be pretty cool. If you wanted to, after you've rinsed and washed and rinsed your mask out and made sure there's no bleach left in it, you can add color to your reverse tie-dyed mask if you want to add some color into the bleached areas. So this one, I haven't added any color to, so I'm going to do that now. So since you've been rinsing and washing your mask, it'll already be damp. You just want to make sure you wring it so it's not dripping wet anymore, just like we would for regular tie-dye. So I'm just gonna wet this one since it was done earlier. So I'm gonna wring it out so it's just damp. And this one, you can tie it up with rubber bands into a pattern. Try to recreate the pattern you did with the bleach or do a new pattern. Or, like I'm going to do now, you can just add color. So I'm gonna add pink to some of the bleached areas. Just to add some color, just straight onto the mask. So I have some pink stripes in that mask. So then, just like you would with regular tie-dye, you would need the color to set up. So you would take this and you would put it into one of your plastic sandwich bags and let it sit for around 6 hours to make sure that the color sets and is nice and bright and vibrant. And that is some simple and basic tie-dye and reverse tie-dye projects that you can do with the supplies we have in our supply bags from the library. I hope you have fun with your tie-dye and it doesn't create too much of a big mess for you. You will have lots of dye left over to do more projects if you would like. But remember, be safe, wear gloves, and if you can, do it outside. So have a great summer, and I'll see you soon. Bye.